Hi, um, dressed up unusually smart today because I've just attended a meeting on Zoom. Um, it's most of us today have got our Christmas trees, and we've got a tinsel, and we've got a party hats on, and we're all blowing the crackers, pulling the crackers, blowing whatever whistles, and we've got pulling the crackers as well, and we're probably having a Christmas dinners right now, but we we think we're celebrating the birthday of Jesus Christ, but are we doing really? It is December the 25th, really, the birthday of Christ. That's the question. McClintock and Strong Encyclopedia has this to say: that the observance of Christmas is not of divine appointment, nor is it of New Testament origin. The day of Christ's birth cannot be ascertained from the New Testament or indeed from any other source. That's New York, 1871, Volume 2, page 276. And look, if you read Luke chapter 2 verse 8 to 11, it shows that shepherds were in the fields at night at the time of Jesus' birth. And the book Daily Life in the Time of Jesus states that the flocks passed the winter under cover, and from this alone it may be seen that the traditional date for Christmas in the winter is unlikely to be right, since the Gospel says that the shepherds were in the fields. That's New York, 1962. Page 228. The Encyclopedia Americana says the reason for establishing December 25th as Christmas is somewhat obscure, but it is usually held that the day was chosen to correspond to pagan festivals that took place around the time of the winter solstice, when the days began to lengthen to celebrate the rebirth of the sun. The Roman Saturnalia, a festival dedicated to Saturn, the god of agriculture, and to the renewed power of the sun, also took place at this time, and some Christmas customs are thought to be rooted in this ancient pagan celebration. That's from 1977, Volume 6, page 666. And the New Catholic Encyclopedia states the date of Christ's birth is not known. The Gospels indicate neither the day nor the month. According to the hypothesis suggested by H. Usner and accepted by most scholars today, the birth of Christ was assigned the date of a winter solstice, December the 25th in the Julian calendar, January the 6th in the Egyptian, because on this day, as the sun began its return to northern skies, the pagan devotees of Mithra celebrated the Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, birthday of the invisible sun. On December the 25th, 274, Aurelian had proclaimed the sun god principal patron of the empire and dedicated a temple to him in the Campus Martius. Christmas originated at a time when the cult of the sun was particularly strong at Rome. That's from 1967, Volume 3, page 656. Well, so we can see from all that the celebration of Christmas originates from pagan pre-Christian practices such as sun worship. But a lot of people that nowadays say, I mean, it's never there's people's name. A lot of people don't believe in God these days. I mean, they say there's no solid evidence outside the scriptures that Jesus existed either. He could have just been a fictional character. So they say all that doesn't matter because there is no God anyway. But for those of us who do believe in God, we want to please Him, don't we? So we've got to do our best to please Him. And I've got a book here called the but I've got a book here, the two Babylons. I'll yeah, it's called the. I'm just showing it. They're showing the front cover of it. It's called the Two Babylons, or the Babylons, or the Papal Worship proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife by the Reverend Alexander Hislop, and it's the fourth edition, with 61 woodcut illustrations from Nineveh, Babylon, Egypt, Pompeii, etc. And there's I'll read what it says in the preface. In the warfare that has been waged against the dominating pretensions of Rome, it has too often been counted enough merely to meet and set aside her presumptuous boast that she is the mother and mistress of all churches, the one Catholic Church, out of whose pale there is no salvation. If the position laid down can be maintained, she must be stripped of the name of a Christian church altogether. For if it was the Church of Christ that was convened on that night when the Pontiff King of Babylon, in the midst of his 1,000 lords, praised the gods of gold and of silver and of wood and of stone, then the Church of Rome is entitled to the name of a Christian church, but not otherwise. This to some no doubt will appear a very startling position, but it is one which is the object of this work to establish, and let the reader judge for himself whether ample evidence is not brought to substantiate it. Right, got Section 1, Christmas and Lady Day, 91. Right, 91. It says Chapter 3, Festivals. Section 1, Christmas and Lady Day. If Rome be indeed the Babylon of the Apocalypse, and the Madonna enshrined in her sanctuaries be the very Queen of heaven, for the worshipping of whom the fierce anger of God was provoked against the Jews in the days of Jeremiah, it is of the last consequence that the fact should be established beyond all possibility of doubt. For that being once established, every one who trembles at the word of God must shudder at the very thought of giving such a system, either individually or nationally, the least countenance or support. Something has been said already that goes far to prove the identity of the Roman and Babylonian systems, but at every step the evidence becomes still more overwhelming. That which arises from it comparing the different festivals is particularly so. The festivals of Rome are innumerable, but 5 of the most important may be singled out for elucidation. Christmas Day, Lady Day, Easter, the Nativity of St. John, and the Feast of the Assumption. Each and all of these can be proved to be Babylonian. And first, as to the festival in honour of the birth of Christ, or Christmas. How come it that festival was connected with the 25th of December? There is not a word in the scriptures about the precise day of his birth, or the time of the year when he was born. What is recorded there implies that at what time soever his birth took place, it could not have been on the 25th of December. At the time that the angel announced his birth to the shepherds of Bethlehem, they were feeding their flocks by night in the open fields. Now, no doubt the climate of Palestine is not so severe as the climate of this country, but even there, though the heat of a day may be considerable, the cold of a night from December to February is very piercing, and it was not the custom for the shepherds of Judea to watch their flocks in the open fields later than about the end of October. It is in the last degree incredible, then, that the birth of Christ could have taken place at the end of December. There is great unanimity among commentators on this point. Besides Barnes, Doddridge, Lightfoot, Joseph Scaliger, and Jennings in his Jewish Antiquities, who were all of opinion that December the 25th could not be the right time of our Lord's Nativity. The celebrated Joseph Mead pronounces a very decisive opinion on the same effect. After a long and careful disquisition on the subject, among other arguments, he adduces the following. At the birth of Christ, every woman and child was to go to be taxed at the city whereto they belonged, whether some had long journeys, but the middle of winter was not fitting for such a business, especially for women with child and children to travel in. Therefore, Christ could not be born in the depth of winter. Again, at the time of Christ's birth, the shepherds lay abroad watching with their flocks in the night time, but this was not likely to be in the middle of winter. And if any shall think the winter wind was not so extreme in these parts, let him remember the words of Christ in the Gospel. Pray that your flight be not in the winter. If the winter was so bad a time to flee him, it seems no fit time for shepherds to lie in the fields and the women and children to travel in. Indeed, it is admitted by the most learned and candid writers of all parties that the day of our Lord's death, the day of our Lord's birth, cannot be determined, and that within the Christian Church no such festival as Christmas was ever heard of till the 3rd century, and that not till the 4th century was far advanced did it gain much observance. How then did the Romish Church fix on December the 25th as Christmas Day? Why thus, long before the 4th century, and long before the Christian era itself, a festival was celebrated among the heathen at that precise time of the year, in honour of the birth of the son of the Babylonian Queen of Heaven, and it may be presumed that in order to conciliate the heathen, and to swell the number of the nominal adherents of Christianity, the same festival was adopted by the Roman Church, giving it only the name of Christ. This tendency on the part of Christians to meet paganism halfway was very early developed, and we find Tertullian, even in his day, about the year 230, bitterly lamenting the inconsistency of the disciples of Christ in this respect, and contrasting it with the strict fidelity of the pagans in their own superstition. By us, says he, who are strangers to Sabbaths and new moons and festivals, unsusceptible to God, the Saturnalia, the Feast of January, the Brumalia, and matronalia, and how frequented. Gifts are carried to and fro. New Year's Day presents are made with din, and sports and banquets are celebrated with uproar. Oh, how much faithful are the heathen to their religion, who take special care to adopt no solemnity from the Christians. Upright men strove to stem the tide, but in spite of all their efforts, the apostasy went on, till the church, with the exception of a small remnant, was submerged under pagan superstition. That Christmas was originally a pagan festival is beyond all doubt. The time of the year and the ceremonies with which it is still celebrated prove its origin. In Egypt, the son of Isis, the Egyptian title for the Queen of Heaven, was born at this very time, about the time of a winter solstice. The very name by which Christmas is popularly known among ourselves, Yule Day, proves at once its pagan and Babylonian origins. Yule is a Chaldean name for an infant or little child, and as the 25th of December was called but by our pagan Anglo-Saxon ancestors Yule Day, or the Child's Day, and the night that preceded it, Mother Night, long before they came in contact with Christianity. That sufficiently proves its real character. Far and wide, in the realms of paganism, was this birthday observed. And it goes on to say, this festival has been commonly believed to have had only an astronomical character, referring simply to the completion of the sun's yearly course and the commencement of a new cycle. But there is undubitable evidence that the festival in question had a much higher reference than this, that it commemorated not merely the figurative birthday of the sun in a renewal of its course, but the birthday of the grand deliverer. Among the Sabians of Arabia, who regarded the moon and not the sun as a visible symbol of the favourite object of their idolatry, and the same period was observed as the birth festival. Thus we read in Stanley's Sabaean Philosophy, on the 24th of the 10th month, that is December according to our reckoning, the Arabians celebrated the birthday of the Lord, that is the moon. The Lord Moon was a great object of Arabian worship, and that Lord Moon, according to them, was born on the 24th of December, which clearly shows that the birth which they celebrated had no necessary connection with the course of the sun. It is worthy of special note, too, that if Christmas Day among the ancient Saxons of this island was observed to celebrate the birth of any lord of the host of heaven, the case must have been precisely the same here as it was in Arabia. The Saxons, as is well known, regarded the sun as a female divinity, and the moon as a male. It must have been the birthday of the Lord Moon, therefore, and not of the sun, that was celebrated by them on the 25th of December, even as the birthday of the same Lord Moon was observed by the Arabians on the 24th of December. The name of the Lord Moon in the East seems to have been Menai, for this appears the most natural interpretation of the divine statement in Isaiah 11 something verses, but I don't know what Roman numerals, can't read Roman numerals, but ye are they that forsake my holy mountain, that prepare a temple for God, and that furnish the drink offering unto Menai. There is reason to believe that Gad refers to the sun god, and that Menai in like manner designates the moon divinity. Menai or Mawanai signifies the numberer, and it is by the changes of the moon that the months are numbered. He appointed the moon for seasons, that the sun knoweth the time of its going down. The name of the man of the moon, or the god who presided over that luminary among the Saxons, was Mani, or as given in the Edda, and Mani in the Volusp for Blusper, that it was the birth of the Lord Moon that was celebrated among our ancestors at Christmas. Wherever we have remarkable evidence in the name that is still given in the lowlands of Scotland to the feast on the last day of the year, which seems to be a remnant of the old birth festival, for the cakes that then made are called Ner cakes or birth cakes. That name is Hogmanay. Now Hogmanay in Celtic signifies the head of the numberer. In other words, the festival of Drws Larnus, or of the man of the moon, to show the connection between country and the inveterate endurance of all customs. It is worthy of remark that Jerome, commenting on the very words of Isaiah already quoted about spreading a table for Gad and pouring out a drink offering to Menai, observed that it was the custom so late as his time in the 4th century, in all cities, especially in Egypt and at Alexandria, to set tables and furnish them with various I've probably got COVID, that's why I keep coughing, with various luxurious articles of food, and with goblets containing a mixture of new wine on the last day of the month and the year, and that the people drew omens from them in respect of the fruitfulness of the year. The Egyptian year began at a different time from ours, but this is as near to possible, only substituting whiskey for wine, that the way in which Hogmanay is still observed on the last day of the last month of our year in Scotland. I do not know that any omens are drawn from anything that takes place at that time, but everybody in the south of Scotland is personally cognizant to the fact that on Hogmanay, on the evening before New Year's Day, among those who observe old customs, a table is spread, and that wild buns and other dainties are provided by those who can afford them. Oat cakes and cheese are brought forth among those who never see oat cakes, but on this occasion, and that strong drink forms an essential article of a provision. Even where the sun was a favourite object of worship, as in Babylon itself and elsewhere, at this festival he was worshipped not merely as the orb of day, but as God incarnate. It was an essential principle of the Babylonian system that the sun, or Baal, was the one only God. When therefore Tammuz was worshipped as God incarnate, that implied that also that he was an incarnation of the sun. In the Hindu mythology, which is admitted to be essentially Babylonian, this comes out very distinctly. There, Surya, or the sun, is represented as being incarnate and born for the purpose of subduing the enemies of the gods who, without such a birth, could not have been subdued. It was no mere astronomic festival, then, that the pagans celebrated at the winter solstice. That festival at Rome was called the Feast of Saturn, and the mode in which it was celebrated there showed whence it had been derived. The feast, as regulated by Caligula, lasted 5 days. Loose reins were given to drunkenness and revelry. Slaves had a temporary emancipation and used all manner of freedoms with their masters. This was precisely the way in which, according to Berosus, the drunken festival of the month, Thebeth, answering to our December, in other words, the festival of Bacchus, was celebrated in Babylon. It was a custom, says he, during the 5 days it lasted, for masters to be in subjection to their servants, and one of them ruled the house, clothed in a purple garment like a king. This purple-robed servant was called Zoganes, the man of sport and wantonness, and answered directly to the lord of misrule. that in the Dark Ages was chosen in all popish countries to head the revels of Christmas. The wassailing bowl of Christmas had its precise counterpart in the drunken festival of Babylon, and many other observances still kept up among ourselves at Christmas came from the very same quarter. The candles in some parts of England lighted on Christmas Eve and used so long as the festive season lasts were equally lighted by the pagans on the eve of the festival of a Babylonian god to do honour to him, for it was one of the distinguishing peculiarities of his worship to have lighted wax candles on his altars. The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. In Egypt that tree was a palm tree. In Rome it was the fir, the palm tree, denoting the pagan Messiah as Baal Tamar. The fir referring to him as Baal Berith, the mother of Adonis, the sun god and great mediatorial divinity, was mystically said to have been changed into a tree, and when in that state to have brought forth her divine son. If the mother was a tree, this son must have been recognised as the man, the branch, and this entirely accounts for the putting of a Yule log into the fire at Christmas Eve, and the appearance of a Christmas tree the next morning. As Zoroaster, the seed of the woman, which name also signifies Nigina, or born of the fire, he has to enter the fire on Mother Night, that is, he may be born the next day out of it as the branch of God, or the tree that brings all divine gifts to men. But why, it may be asked, does he enter the fire under the symbol of a log? To understand this, it must be remembered that the divine child born at the winter solstice was born as a new incarnation of the great God, after that God had been cut in pieces on purpose to revenge his death upon his murderers. Anyway, I could bore you to tears going on, but I'll just read this bit here. The Christmas tree, as has been stated, was generally at Rome a different tree, even the fir, but the very same idea as was implied in the palm tree was implied in the Christmas fir, for that covertly is symbolised the new God, born God as Baal Berith, Lord of the Covenant, and thus shadows forth the perpetuity and everlasting nature of his power. Now that after having fallen before his enemies, he had risen triumphant over them all. Therefore, the 25th of December, the day that was observed at Rome as the day when the victorious God reappeared on earth, was held at the Natalis Invicti Solis, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Now the Yule log is the dead stock of Nimrod, deified as the sun god, but cut down by his enemies. The Christmas tree is Nimrod, Divius, the slain god come to life again, in the light reflected by the above statement on customs that still linger among us, the origin of which has been lost in the middle of hoar antiquity. They're lost in the midst of hoar antiquity. Let the reader look at this singular practice still kept up in the South on Christmas Eve of kissing under the mistletoe bough. That mistletoe bough in the Druidic superstition, which, as we have seen, was derived from Babylon, was a representation of the Messiah. The branch. The mistletoe was regarded as a divine branch, a branch that came from heaven and grew upon a tree that sprung out of the earth. Thus, by the engrafting of a celestial branch into the earthly tree, heaven and earth, that sin had severed, were joined together, and thus the mistletoe bough became the token of divine reconciliation by man, the kiss being the well-known token of pardon reconciliation. Whence could such an idea have come? May it not have come from the 85th Psalm, verse 10-11? Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth in consequence of the coming of a promised Saviour, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Certain it is that Psalm was written soon after the Babylonish captivity, and as multitudes of the Jews after that event still remained in Babylon under the guidance of inspired men such as Daniel. As a part of the divine word, it must have been communicated to them, as well as to their kinsmen in Palestine. Babylon was at that time the centre of the civilized world, and thus paganism, corrupting the divine symbol, as it ever has done, had opportunities of sending forth its debased counterfeit of the truth to all the ends of the earth through the mysteries that were affiliated with the great central system in Babylon. Thus, the very customs of Christmas still existing cast surprising light at once on the revelations of grace made to all the earth, and the efforts made by Satan and his emissaries to materialise, carnalise, and degrade them. Oh, I think I'm boring everyone to tears with all this. I think that these days people think, oh, all this. When was this? I'll tell you when. This Two Babylons. It is quite an old book. It's first published in June 1916, second edition 1921, third edition 1926, fourth edition 1929, reprinted 1932, 1936, 1939, 1952, 1956, 1957, 1960, 1961, 1965, 1969, 1972, 1975 and 1976. So it's been obviously it's been reprinted quite a bit over the years, but I don't know whether it was known but as early as 1916 what the origins of Christmas were, but that anyway. But being as I've given you all the information, you can just make up your mind about it, can't you? Just do what I know. The general opinion nowadays is, well, there isn't a God anyway, because the universe couldn't have been created. That the idea that the universe was created is just an old-fashioned idea that went out with the Stone Age. But it and they say it doesn't matter what you do, really, because there is no God anyway. But if you do believe there's a God, you can just make up your mind about the given, listen to the information that I've just given you, and make up your mind about it, and do what you think is best. Anyway, does anyone think I should grow another beard again? Maybe you could tell me in the comments. Anyway, I'll be back soon with more material.